That's right. We are back. Welcome to House Jack City Backstage. We're kicking off season 2 with a true industry heavyweight. Today's guest is the president and CEO of Steve Rubin Consulting, and you might know him from his incredible run as the senior director of TV event relations for WWE, from managing some of the biggest live events in sports entertainment to shaping the future of media consulting. Steve has seen it all. Get ready for an episode packed with backstage stories, career advice, and a peek into what really goes on behind the curtain. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Steve Rubin to the show. Woo! Welcome, Steve. How we doing, bud?
Steve,
All
how
right.
you doing, buddy?
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. You guys are putting a lot of pressure on me, making me the season premiere for season 2. So hopefully,
We're excited to have
I
you.
under promise and over deliver here.
Hey, man. You know what? I also had to make sure we decorated a little bit for you. You know, John Cena. I was actually I visited Hulk Hogan's store when I was in Clearwater, and actually bought that shirt. Never going to wear these shirts. These are just going to be shirts that are monumental for me. So, yeah, welcome to the show, Steve. We
Well, thank you
appreciate
guys again for having me.
Yeah.
We're excited, Steve. So let's kick it off with you kind of started the industry, if you will, in your career out of Syracuse, right? And then from there, you got into the WWE. So paint us a picture about how you started in Syracuse, why WWE, and were you even a wrestling fan growing up? Was that like your, ultimate dream?
Well, we could start with the last part of that question. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be 50 in February, so growing up in the early 80s, yeah, everybody was a wrestling fan. I mean, that's when it really became mainstream to become a wrestling fan. I can remember my dad taking me to my first WWE event. I think I was 6 years old or 7 years old, like 1982, 1983, in the old Brendan Byrne Arena in New Jersey, which would become Meadowlands Continental Airlines Arena. But that first show my dad took me to, I saw Andre the Giant versus Big John Studd in a steel cage match, and Bob Backlund defending the then WWF championship against Sergeant Slaughter in a Texas death match. And, as a 6-year-old, you're seeing this, or 7-year-old, and of course, you're just hooked at that point.
Right.
Over the course of, my childhood, my dad would take me to shows relatively frequently. We were at the Garden the night that the Iron Sheik won the WWF title from Bob Backlund. That was like December of like 82 or 83. And then the next month, that January, is when Hogan first won the WWF championship, and then Hulkamania started, and then it just went skyrocket from there. Obviously, the early 80s boom of WWF at the time. So it was kind of in on the ground floor at that point. And then, watching it all throughout my childhood, my dad took me to WrestleMania 2 at the Nassau Coliseum.
Oh, wow.
And we saw Roddy Piper against Mr. T in a boxing match, live and in person. And, Roddy Piper was my favorite growing up. I mean, he was, it just shows you my character that I gravitated towards the bad guys. And then going forward 20 plus years of meeting all these guys and working with them, it was something. As I got older, I kind of tailed off a little bit in my fandom. And then come 1996, 97, when wrestling became, cool again with the NWO and Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. And, there were a bunch of us that would watch it in our fraternity house at Syracuse. Shout out Kenny Anderson. Had his Shawn Michaels. Yeah, had his Shawn Michaels action figure that he would keep on his desk in his room in the fraternity house. And one of the biggest controversies in our fraternity house was who kidnapped his Shawn Michaels doll. And going forward, it just kind of rekindled at that point again. To to answer your other question of how I got involved with it and why I started with it, I went to school for broadcast journalism at Syracuse. Uh, Syracuse is one of the hotbeds for sports broadcasting. Bob Costas went there, Mike Tirico,
Mike
Marv
Tirico,
Albert,
yep. Ooh.
all these heavy hitters in the world of sports broadcasting. So just like everybody else, I wanted to be the next Bob Costas. And I got to Syracuse and realized really quickly that I had a face for radio and was not really very good on camera. So I decided that I would go into more the producing end of broadcast journalism, and was fully prepared to start my career at Market 120 in Bumblefuck, Iowa, or wherever that may be. And my senior year at Syracuse, we had a class that was 1 day a week lecture, and 1 day a week we would produce the local newscasts at WIXT, which is the ABC affiliate in Syracuse. And I would do the Saturday night broadcast. And it was like the week before Christmas, and I had to make up a class before we left for Christmas break. And so I was there on like a Thursday or a Friday afternoon, can't remember exactly which one. And it was a slow news day. And, so not much is happening. And then all of a sudden it comes over the police blotter that some crazy idiot decides to commit suicide at the Carousel Center shopping mall in Syracuse by jumping from the top floor through the center atrium, and he landed right in front of the Santa Claus display in front of a whole lot of
Holy
kids.
shit.
And so, being what it is and what it was, the newsroom just explodes. Like it's TV news, if it bleeds, it leads, right? And now all of a sudden you went from a slow news day to having your lead for your 5, 6 o'clock broadcasts. And I'm looking around and I'm like, this is morbid. Like, these people are literally waiting for something bad to happen in somebody else's day for them to have an interesting day at work,
Right.
And I don't want to spend the next 50 years of my life doing this. So, I finished up the class and I finished the day, and, I decided at that point that TV news wasn't for me. And, sports news at that time, in 97, 98, it's not like today. There's no streaming, there's no YouTube, there's no anything where you guys, like you guys are doing here, can kind of create your own avenue for broadcast distribution. You're tied to local affiliates or ESPN at the time, or Fox, or NBC. So the opportunities are not as plentiful, right?
Right.
So I had graduated from, I was graduating at the time, and we had a job fair at Syracuse, and WWE came recruiting for production assistants. So, I went and I met with the people there, and they gave me an interview, and they said, well, since you're broadcast journalism major and not like sports production major or TV production major, you're not really qualified to be a production assistant,
Right.
which is like saying you're not qualified to get coffees and lunches and make copies. But we have this opportunity as a tape library assistant, where you're basically in charge of the tape library, and
Right.
somebody needs a tape, and you're going and find it for them. And as they're done editing, you're going and collecting all the tapes, and you're restocking them on the shelves. And you're working with the department that's in charge of outside footage requests. So you're, if a talk show, guys on a talk show, and they need a clip of Stone Cold, you're helping pull that clip and sending it off to them. So I jumped at the opportunity. I had another job offer from ESPN for the production assistant program that they have for SportsCenter, and it was 8 weeks, and you would have to move up to Bristol, Connecticut, which is in the middle of nowhere. And, and no benefits, and paid like $200 a week back in, 98. And if they didn't like you after 8 weeks, you're
Done.
spit out of luck.
Yeah.
You're moving back. I'm moving back to Queens, and I'm back to square zero again. And WWE was based in Stamford. I could live at home with my parents. My girlfriend at the time was going to be, at home with her parents. She's now my wife, and we've been married for 23 years. And
congratulations, that's awesome.
Well, don't applaud yet. I've been on the road half of that time, so makes marriage a whole lot easier when you're on the road all the time. You're not together.
I love it.
Anyway, yeah. So it was kind of, and they were going to pay me 20 grand a year, and I was going to get benefits, and I could live at home with my parents and drive up to Connecticut, and it was kind of a no-brainer. Within 6 months, I got promoted to production assistant, and within 2 years, I was on the road. So that's where it all started.
That's amazing. Now, I know we talked about in our pre-qualification. You got into the WWE, and you just started your dream, right? This is your dream. Now, can you tell us, the process, like for young kids, for example, like I want to be a WWE superstar, or for someone like me, I don't want to be a WWE superstar. I wanted to be in the WWE behind the scenes, kind of like what you were doing, whether it was camera operator, whether it was, doing the pyrotechnics, the audio production, because I love audio production. What do they have to do to get into something like this, to get into the WWE, for example?
Number one, sell your soul to the devil. Number two,
to the devil.
Yeah, sell your soul to the devil. No, just kidding. There are so many different avenues these days. It's such an interesting time in terms of production and distribution, and the way the landscape of media is moving, or has moved, and it continues to move. That there's really no clear path to anything anymore. You can kind of almost make your own path, especially with what you guys are doing here, with your podcast and with YouTube, and TikTok, and all the influencers that are out there. There's really no clear one path to get to what you want to anymore.
Right.
So it's really interesting. I mean, the best answer to that question is just to try. It depends on what avenue you're going to. If you're TV production and you want to get into the TV production aspect of it, you're taking all those little jobs locally, and you're honing your craft, and you're it's like an apprenticeship almost. Especially with TV, if you're learning to be a cameraman, you're going to learn from another cameraman, or from,
Right.
Utilities, or audio. So it's finding that apprenticeship almost that's out there. And it could be, like, again, it's starting locally at, doing high school sports, and developing your skills,
Right.
doing all those, especially all those technical aspects of it too. So, being a cameraman for WWE is like nothing else. Just because you're doing, NFL or MLB doesn't mean you can just step right in and become a cameraman for WWE. There's definitely a learning curve there, because it's so nuanced on how wrestling is shot.
Right.
And the same thing with, being a TD or being a director. It's so nuanced on how cameras are cut in order to tell a specific story.
Right.
So just because you're a great, NFL cameraman doesn't necessarily mean you're going to translate and become a great WWE cameraman.
And that's a great
Uh,
point because with me working at IMG Academy when I was there and working with the NFL, there was a lot of different aspects that came to that, like you just said. In the WWE, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's a lot of movement with the camera, especially when you're in the ring. So when somebody does the drop kick, boom, then I'm sure, good old, it was Kevin Dunn that used to direct all that as well. So
he was our executive producer.
and he loved doing those shots, right? Those
Mm.
those big cuts. So you and I in the production field, cut, boom, angle, and you got to follow the script. Am I correct? Because there's a script, because I know Unreal's coming out, so we're gonna break kayfabe here a little bit, but with the script. You guys have to follow all that, right? Like you have to be at the spot. You have to be, the cameramans have to be at the spot. They have to make sure that they're backstage at the right time. They have to have their cues if they're under the ring, right? Because there was a monitor under the ring. So if the Undertaker was coming out, for a surprise return, you had to make sure he was good to go. I mean, there's a lot in detail, and that's why I really truly respect everything you guys do and have and what you've done in the industry. That's why we love having you on too, because I'm a fan of the production. Like that's me. I'm a fan of WWE, but I'm also a fan of what you've done for the past 26 years. So it's a lot of work, and that's the big times.
Well, thank you, first of all,
Not a
for
problem.
that.
No, for
For
sure.
that, uh, you'd be surprised how many people that are even in the TV and production industry uh, don't see it
Give a
that
lot
way
of credit.
sometimes.
Yeah, it's pretty sad, isn't it? Been doing this since '97 myself at the age of 14, and we don't get a lot of credit for what goes on behind the scenes, and then just the production factor of how much time and effort goes into just a podcast. Like ladies and gentlemen, just I'll talk for all of us here. Putting a podcast together isn't just sitting down at your desk and pressing record. There's a lot more to it.
A lot
So
of damn work, huh?
a lot of damn work. And and I know Roy, when we were back in doing our show in Boulder Community Television here, it was an 8-hour production setup, and we didn't get paid for it. It was a volunteer work. So
And that's on a
doing it.
short day.
That's on a short day.
That's a short day.
And then Steve, you guys are traveling all over the nation and even all over the world, and you got to do it all over again. So I mean, it all goes down for. I know we talked before the show of how everything's set up. You got the truck crew, the ring crew, the pyrotechnic crew, the audio crew, the grip crew. Everything that is involved in production is just unbelievable how you guys are on the road for over 300, if not plus more days a year. And then, what you said earlier, you've been married for 23 years, having to try to balance a family life as well. So God bless you,
Well,
man, for the 26 years of what you did, because you are a
And
heavyweight
you're
in this
still
industry.
married, so that's a remarkable feat in itself in that industry,
well,
right?
the interesting thing is, right, this is the Jeff Bezos line. It's not me. I'm not the smart. Uh, he says that, there's no such thing as work-life balance. You're never going to have work-life balance until you're retired and you're not
Correct.
working anymore. Uh, what we should all strive to achieve is work-life harmony. That our working life needs to be in harmony with our personal life. And if it is, then you're happy, you know,
Right.
and then if it's not, then you got to figure out what the next move is. But there's no such thing as work-life balance. It's never going to happen.
Right.
You know, if you aim to have any type of success in this world, you're always going to be working more than you are with your family. And even when you are with your family, you're still, most of us are still thinking about work most of the time. So you need to be able to have that harmony is the key. And that's a work in progress for 99% of us. Sometimes it's better than others, and sometimes it's not. Uh, and the key is finding your partner that understands that.
That's exactly right. That you guys are on the same page. Hey, I want to ask you. So, segueing from some of the production stuff, let's talk about the relationships, right, in the business. Some of the best talents and employees that you've worked with. I'm sure it's so difficult. You have a lot of personalities and egos and whatnot. And anyway, just share some of the best with talents and employees that you had.
Well, so you know, the best thing about the WWE or anything like that is when you're on the road that much and you're together that much, your road crew becomes your road family, and you all have each other's back no matter what, you know. And the worst thing that ever happens is you're on the road and something happens at home and you have to leave and go home for an emergency or anything like that. And you're on the road long enough, it's going to happen. I remember we were in Saudi Arabia for the first Crown Jewel show in 2018. I think it was the first.
Yeah, this was the first ever one, right?
Right. And we're halfway across the world, and my son, who's like 7 at the time, is having severe stomach pains at home, and my wife is on the phone with me constantly, and she's saying he's on the floor, he's doubled over in pain. I'm taking him to the emergency room.
Jeez.
You know, and it turns out that he was severely dehydrated, and you know, luckily enough, I was able to get through the show without having to rush home, and made it. Went right from the airport to the hospital because he got checked into the hospital. They had him on, IV, um, for hydration,
Right.
and I went right from the airport after a 17-hour flight. Got there and relieved my wife, and she went home, and I slept in the hotel room with him, hospital room with him. And all these things that happen, these things happen. If you're on the road long enough, it's going to happen where you're going to have that emergency where you have to get home. And you need your road family to have your back at that point where it's not even a question. The show comes second at that point. Your family comes first.
For sure. Absolutely.
And
100%.
and to know that the company and your road family at that time has your back. And so, if it's not even, it wouldn't even been a question. If I would have needed to miss the show and get on a plane and, they would have had to buy me a ticket, it would have happened,
Right.
And that, that's part of what it is. So your road crew becomes your road family. And that goes for the talent as well, so, you're like those of us that were in the trenches with them 52 weeks a year,
Yeah.
and you develop a rapport and a trust especially with the talent,
Right.
that they know that you're going to do right by them, and you know, and you're out to look out for their best interest to make sure that they look as good as possible on TV at all times, and uh, because that's what the show is, that's what the product is, and the talent realizes it too. That without the crew, they can't do what they need to do.
And this is
So
where, and this is another thing too that I want to piggyback off you, with Unreal coming out July 29th. I'm not promoting it for Netflix. Okay. So I'm just saying this is a good segue because
I'm a Netflix stock owner, so promote away.
all right. Unreal July 29th, Unreal WWE, Triple H. You don't have to, I'll send you my Zelle. You can sell me for that. Anyways, no, it leads right into that because it even goes to even the wardrobe crew, right? Like, like I see so many different relationships. Oh, this is my best friend here, like Liv Morgan. I know Liv has her friend on the road with her all the time. There's a lot of behind the scenes people that no one knows, like you or me back in IMG Academy or doing stuff with the NFL. They don't know that stuff. Like, and that's what I love to see, the relationship. And you said it right. You guys become a family, and that is the brotherhood, the sisterhood. And I think that's what makes these shows go on. I mean, even this past pay-per-view, Naomi, she won the women's championship. She deserves it. You know what I mean? And she worked her ass off for that.
Mhm.
So I'm proud of her. I'm happy for her as an individual. And I know Jimmy's very happy for his wife.
Mhm.
So, it's just, it all comes together. That's why I love hearing this story.
Mhm.
And then I know Roy's going to want to get it. And I know we're about the half-hour mark coming up here. And I know we want to get into a few other things, Steve. And I know one thing we wanted to get into is 9/11. And I know Roy wanted to jump on that. So I'm going to let Roy take this question over.
First of all, I got to give you a little crap for mentioning Liv Morgan. That's an inside joke that you and I will. Yeah, I
Yeah,
see you
it's an
watching
inside
over
Wow,
there.
joke.
you have a thing for Liv, Roy?
No, I have a little crushy on Liv Morgan.
That's that guy down
She's
there.
just awesome. She's just an awesome person. She's an awesome individual. She lives in Florida. I lived in Florida, and she's partakes in some things I partake in, and she's just a very lively person. And
Very
I
cool.
think she's a great talent. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. She's a great heel. She's a great face, great wrestling ability. And I just would like to say to her, if she watches the show, have a speedy recovery. I have the same shoulder injury she does, so I know what she's going through.
All right,
God
Travis
bless her,
Kelsey, shoot your
and I
shot.
hope
And so,
and I hope
so
she
to
feels better.
so
So
to piggyback off of that for a second before Roy gets into his question, right?
sure,
So obviously and she's a great human being on top of it.
right.
But shifting a little bit to Dominic at this point,
I
right?
love Dom, man. He's
So
amazing.
so
Love Dominic.
so Dom obviously has just shot the moon in terms of his
Yes,
character now and what he's done with it. I've known Dom since he's like 7 years
little,
old,
little,
you
yeah,
know.
right, yeah.
So obviously, and making myself feel ancient at this point, right? Uh, seeing him grow up, known the family, and that it goes back to the whole family aspect of it. You get to know these guys and their kids and their
Mm-hmm.
wives, and they're all around. And part of my job would be to help take care of the families as they came in, and putting them in seats and making sure that they got what they need when they were in the crowd and nobody was bothering them. And we're like, um, you know, when they did the storyline with Dom turning on Ray and before the match at Mania, and
Probably
uh,
one of the best
you know,
storylines.
and and
Love it.
Angie slaps him in the
Mm-hmm.
crowd.
In the crowd,
Well,
yep.
I'm putting Angie in that seat. That's part of our job. Is I'm determining where Angie is sitting, and I'm telling our camera guys where she is, and we're developing which cameras to use to shoot her the right way, so that
Right.
we're not seeing all the tech area behind her, and we don't see her on camera until we want to see her on camera. You know, so. Uh, so you're involved with that whole scenario, and to
Mm-hmm.
watch Dom and his dad and his family have that moment together as a family, you know,
It's amazing.
and is just amazing. And you think it's weird that Dom's wrestling his dad, you know, and that the two of them are in the ring just beating the shit out of each other, but that's their dream.
Yeah.
That's Ray's dream, and Ray is one of the greatest human beings on God's earth. And
He's another person I would love to talk to and meet because he's a great guy. He
yeah,
is.
and to see him have that moment with his son, on the biggest stage in the business is you get the feels. It's
Right.
you're part of that, and you're helping them to provide that moment for that family, and it's unbelievable.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I love those stories.
Rob, you were just talking about the 9/11 thing, so let's go there, right? Steve, when we had our pre meeting here before we went live back about a week ago, you talked about 9/11, WWE, and its role in helping the recovery of everyone's morale in the world, because it's like, wow, what just happened, right? Everything was on hiatus. Planes were, nobody was flying, but talk about your show and what you guys did, because you were the first ones back before anybody else.
Yeah, so the story goes, uh, we were in Houston I'm sorry, we were in San Antonio, I think, for Monday Night Raw. And then we travel overnight to Houston for Tuesday taping. At that time, we were taping SmackDowns on Tuesdays, and they would air on Thursdays on UPN at that time. And 9/11 was a Tuesday morning, and so I wake up. I'm in a hotel in Houston, and getting ready to go to the arena to start the day, and it comes over on the Today Show. It's one of those things. I had the TV on as I was waking up, and you see the plane go into the first building, and you're like, "Am I still sleeping? What just happened?" And then I go downstairs to get a workout in at the hotel gym, and I remember I was on the elliptical, and you see the second plane hit, and you're like, "Oh shit! Like this is real now." Uh, and uh, at that time, my wife worked in Manhattan, my mother-in-law worked in Manhattan, my family's all still in New York at that point, and you're stuck halfway across the country, and cell phones were just becoming a thing at that time. So, cell service was completely down. You couldn't get a hold of anybody. And we didn't know what we were doing as far as a show that night. America didn't know what America was doing in terms of anything that day. Everything stopped. So we get word that we're obviously canceling the show that night, but we don't know what's happening going forward. And either way, we're not getting flights anywhere. We can't go home, or unless you start driving from Houston to wherever. And so we're just stuck, uh, and what do you do in that situation when you're on the road all the time and you have nothing to do? You go down to the hotel bar, and that's where everybody congregated until we found out what was going on. I can vividly remember sitting next to Stacy Keebler. She had just turned 21 at the time, and we were just sitting there, just bullshitting because we had nothing else to. We had no clue what else was going on. So we find out later on that we're going to be doing the show live on Thursday from the old Summit Arena in Houston, Texas, which is now Joel Osteen's mega church. Before the Rockets moved to the Toyota Center. So it was actually the Compaq Center at the time, not the Summit, right? And we have a day and a half, 2 days to burn in Houston, waiting for the show to start. And so those of us that we had no clothes, we didn't have enough clothes, so we had to go shopping, and the company covered all of our clothes, and we get to work on Thursday, and we're doing the show, and we don't know what the creative is. We don't know if it's going to be storyline driven or if it's just going to be matches or anything at this point. And through the course of the day, we find out that okay, we're going to record testimonials from all the guys about what they're feeling about 9/11, and and it's going to be a show just to take America's mind off of what's going on.
Right.
And because that's what you needed at that point. You needed entertainment. And we were the first mass gathering of any kind at all post 9/11. So, and the show was sold out. All the tickets from Tuesday night show were going to be on it on Thursday, and technically we are sold out, but we have no clue if anybody's going to show. Right. If people are going to be afraid, or if or if they're just not going to want to go to a show at that point. But there's definitely a level of uncertainty of gathering in mass at that point, because we didn't know if there was another attack coming. We didn't know if there was anything happening at that point. We would have intel from FBI and from local authorities of whether we never, to my knowledge, we didn't get any pushback from any of the authorities about doing the show at that point. And I probably would have been in the loop on that at that time. But yeah, I mean, yes. So during the day, I can vividly remember sitting in our backstage in what we called our pre-tape room. That would be where the guys would go to cut like promos to camera. Um, about back in the day when they used to do the old double box when the guy was in the ring and you'd see like Ultimate Warrior pop up and talk about Hogan,
Yeah.
or whoever it was. Uh,
Yes.
and I was sitting in our pre-tape room and watching the news coverage and just crying my eyes out like all day long about, all the different families that had lost family members and, all the just destruction and, uh, that and just sadness that was happening, all over the country because of this. Um, so show starts and, you know, we open doors and the crowd starts filing in and, uh, you know, every seat's full, start of the show. People are carrying American flags. Soldiers are coming, military servicemen are coming in uniform. Yeah. And, uh, Vince comes out and he cuts an impassioned promo about, you know, how America will not be held down and, we're not going to kowtow to terrorism and just rah rah, sis boom bah to the point where if Vince ran for president the next day, he probably would have won, after that promo. It was unbelievable. And then Lillian Garcia gets into the ring and sings the national anthem, and there was not a dry eye in the house. I'm getting choked up talking about it
Oh
now.
man, I
Uh,
love it.
a-
I love it. It's
and
very
uh,
emotional. It's a very good. It was a very rough time.
and I remember just standing on the floor right underneath our main camera location, right directly across from Lillian because she's singing right into the camera, and I'm looking right at her and just lose it completely. Because you're thinking about your family and you're thinking about all the people that had lost family members and my family that was still in New York, and uh, it was just an amazing, amazing emotional moment. And it's a really, honestly, simply put, something that only WWE could have done.
Yeah,
Uh,
God bless. You mean it
and,
really?
the show is over, and I get into a car and I drive from Houston back to New York overnight, you know,
Wow,
to get home to my family.
wow. That's an amazing story. I mean, I remember too in 9/11. I think we all remember. I know Roy, you were just saying some when we had a brief stoppage there, but 9/11. I remember exactly where I was at. I woke up. My mother woke me up and said, "Hey, wake up! Turn the TV on. Plane just hit the tower." I'm like, "Huh? What? What?" I wake up, turn the TV on. Right when I turned the TV on, the second plane hit. Immediately hit. I freaked out. My brother's in high school at the time. I was already out of high school. I drove right to the high school down the street here and picked them up because they shut down everything in the Chicagoland area. They got rid of everyone out of the high rises. It was chaos even here in Chicago. So I can only imagine just New York and then in Houston and you guys running the show. And you are absolutely right, Steve. I remember watching that show, and you said you choked up. I choked up. Lynn Garcia, I think I cried. I think I cried when she sang the national anthem because everyone you see in the crowd when you guys are doing those pan shots and stuff like that, you see everyone crying. You see everyone with American flags. I mean, that united us as Americans, and for Vince to come out and put out the best promo, like you said, he would have became president the next day. That is a great way to put it. Was just an amazing thing. We needed that, and that's why I'm always been a huge fan of the WWE, just because they do listen to the WWE universe, and it's just been nothing but a huge family in my opinion, not only behind the scenes but in the universe itself, the professional wrestling, crowd there. I mean, we're all a family. We're all one. That's why I'm just a huge fan of, you know, moving forward of what the WWE has done since then. Go ahead, Roy.
Yeah, it just, just to share a quick story, I took my first flight ever a week after 9/11. As soon as airports opened, my mother and I go to Vegas and talk about what a first flight, right? I was nervous to begin with,
Mm.
and then this. So it's just one of those things you'll never forget. But Steve, I just want to ask you now, these days, what are you up to? So you're a consultant, right? And
Mhm.
are you working on some projects right now? And what's a day in the life look like for you right now at this current juncture here?
Yeah, so in my post WWE life, I've decided to go into business for myself, and I started a consulting business. Uh, Partially, it's live event consulting, broadcast consulting, and partially doing some consulting work with live event, fan tech, broadcast tech companies that are looking to increase their footprint in the live event world. So obviously, part of my main responsibility for WWE over the course of 24 out of the 26 years I was there was I was the main liaison between all of our WWE television production, our live event in arena production, our live event marketing teams, and venue. So basically, uh, coordinating production logistics, but also being the bridge, so to speak, between all those different entities, making sure all those different entities were all on the same page all the time from anything that we were doing from a TV production creative perspective that would affect anything anybody else was doing. So making sure that before a show went on sale, we would be in contact with our live event marketing teams and venue, and we would advance all the production kills. So, this is where the ring is going. This is how big the ring is. This is how many seats we could sell on the floor. We need this appropriate spacing so that we can get cameras through the crowd or have action out in the crowd safely or be able to have wheelchairs maneuver through the crowd. This is how big the set is. These are the sections that are going to get blocked by the set. So don't sell these seats. These seats are going to be limited view where you may not be able to see the guys enter, but you're going to be able to see the whole ring. So, we need to price those and mark those accordingly. Um, this is where cameras are going. So don't sell these seats, and then as the show would progress and if, when shows would sell out, we would work with the arena and with our marketing team to, okay, this is where we could potentially add more seats if we adjust this here and there. Um, and basically same thing. Anything the venue was doing that was going to affect how our show would look on TV. Hey, we want to put a concession stand out on the floor. Can we do that? Well, you can't put it over there because we're going to see it on camera. So put it over here and make sure your lights are turned off. And uh, and we need to put an announce position on the floor for the pre-show set. For the desk, the announce desk that Renee or Jackie Redmond now and those guys
Right.
sit at before a pay-per-view. So this is where it goes. This is how big it is. So we got to kill these seats around it, and to make sure that we have enough room for this pre-show desk. Um, and then, we would coordinate with our directors and producers and creatives saying, hey, we're sold pretty well tonight, but we're not sold out. So, don't shoot these sections over here because they're going to be empty and covered with black drape, you know, off in a corner somewhere. Or we're sold really well tonight. So let's move the camera locations up to make the building look bigger,
Right.
on TV. And, uh, hey, we want to use a drone, now.
I've been
And
seeing
so,
that.
right.
So
So we need to clear that with the building, make sure the fire
right.
marshal's okay with the drone flying over people's heads, because
Yeah.
some buildings, some cities are okay with it, some aren't. And we would get the permits for that.
Hmm.
Um, all those types of things. So, um, because of that, I have developed relationships with all of our vendors and all of our arenas. And, you're talking from event coordinators to box office staff to general managers. And the live event and arena space is very small. It's a very small community, very incestual, and they bounce from one building to the next. And then as you get promoted, you go from event coordinator to senior event coordinator to assistant GM to now general managers of buildings. So with those connections over the last 25 years, having all those connections in arenas and stadiums and with, different touring entities, whether it be, tour managers for concerts now or for guys that had worked on our crew that are now tour managers for, we have one guy who was a tour manager who was in Europe now with Camila Cabello, and one of our stage managers is Garth Brooks's production manager from back in the day. So, having that network of connections to be able to present to these companies to say, hey, listen, I can help you grow your business and, be able to get those connections made for them. So part of it, doing some event coordinating. I'm working with a company called U.S. Concert Agency on the first ever concerts at the Field of Dreams movie site in Iowa. Those are coming up at the end of August. So August 30th, headlined by Tim McGraw. August 31st, headlined by Brantley Gilbert and Nickelback. So I'm working with them on that. So tickets are still available for those shows, or if you're in the Dyersville, Iowa area.
Let's
Velocity.
go, Rob.
We might have to show up, Steve.
Yeah.
Have carpool come strap through Chicago on the way, would you? Come pick us up.
USCA.live is where you could buy your tickets to that.
Tickets.
Get
them now.
Let me put that up there for you. Hold on.
Put it up there. Sell it out. Let's go.
You said USCA?
.live.
That's awesome.
.live. Got you.
That's great, man.
There it is.
Wow.
It's popped up right there. Make sure you guys go to USCA.live, baby.
Sure. Yes.
And then also, too, I've been popping up your LinkedIn here. So
Yeah.
if anyone wants to get a hold of you for anything that you got going on, let me see where it's at here. Did I just lose it? I probably did. Excuse me. I probably just lost it. I will find it again. Let's continue forward.
Well,
I will put. I popped your LinkedIn up here earlier, but
and to that end, I mean, one of the other really, really great things about the time I had with WWE was, WWE, we did everything in house. Mm-hmm. So aside from the straight Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, premium live event, stadium shows, wrestling shows, we did every other kind of show there was in terms of, we would produce our own press conferences and we would produce our own upfronts. So when we launched the WWE Network, we took over the theater inside the Wynn in Las Vegas and did a full network presentation upfront type show. And it was all done in-house. The movie premieres for every one of the WWE films shows, films movies. Right. So we did in the Fox Theater in Detroit, we did the movie premiere for Steve Austin in The Condemned. That movie. That was a WWE production. Every year the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. That's an award show, and it functions just like an award show. So, every year I would be the one who would, the Slammies. I would be the one who assigned all the talent, all of their seats on the floor. We'd have the active talent sitting in the audience watching the Hall of Fame inductees speak. Well, we need to know where a specific talent's going to be, when that person gets referenced in a speech. So we would hand pick every seat for every talent, and we would have to know where they were, and we would do rehearsals where we would put their picture on the seat. And so our camera guys would know where they are, and we do a seating plan and have to give it to our director so that the director knew where everybody was. So when, Ric Flair's up doing his Hall of Fame induction speech, and he's, referencing Shawn Michaels, we got to know where Shawn Michaels is in the crowd and not have to
Right.
look for him.
Right.
Granted, that being said, it's pretty easy. All of our camera guys are all our camera guys for 20 plus years, so they know the talent, but and they know who to look for, but they still got to have an idea where they might be sitting in a crowd of 2,000 people on the floor.
I mean, it's a
So
live show. You only get one take.
yeah. So, we produced our tribute to the troop shows in, army bases all over the country. So we would put up a concert stage and a ring in a parking lot in Fort Hood in Texas and have 50,000 people in a parking lot like you would a festival, like a
Oh, wow.
festival show.
Wow.
And that was
Probably one of the
all
greatest.
produced.
Go ahead.
Sorry?
Go ahead. Sorry. I was going to say, it's probably one of the greatest RKOs of all time was at that event when Seth Rollins and Randy Orton with that one RKO. You remember that one where he jumped in the air?
Oh, that was a WrestleMania. That was a
Was it?
WrestleMania.
Was
Yeah.
it the WrestleMania? I thought that was.
That was WrestleMania in Santa Clara. And
Okay.
yeah. But anyway.
Continue first. Sorry.
Not.
Idiot. Continue.
Yeah. So, and those are you get to work hand in, and the military are your stagehands for that week.
Yes.
So you're working with 18, 19-year-olds that are about to be deployed, and they're building the ring for you, and they're having the time of their lives. They're getting in the ring, they're bouncing around, and you're getting to talk to them and you get to learn about them and their families. And because of that, I've developed a really, really deep respect for our military. That's been enhanced by my participation in the Joint Civilian Orientation Conference. But over the course, but like I said, going forward, it's being able to take all those experiences and help other people now produce their events.
We're running a little bit out of time right now here, and Steve, I just want to thank you so much right before we end because we have one more story to tell.
You know what that is.
We know what story we're going to tell.
Woo!
But first, we just want to thank you so much, man. I know you're a very busy man, and we just want to thank you from here at House Jack City Backstage. Me and Roy want to thank you for
Yes,
coming on and
heartfelt,
taking
heartfelt.
time. We
Thank
really
you.
we really mean this. Thank you so much.
Talk to you for hours, man, but thank you for this.
Good. We got to have you back for a part 2 because I know there's more to talk about, but we won't want to rush everything in 1 hour.
Well, you can have me back as the season conclusion for season 2. It would be like a little cliffhanger.
Yeah, I'm down. I mean, if Liv Morgan wants to join you too, just let me know.
I knew that was
I just want to see how her shoulder's doing. I just want to see how her shoulder's doing. That's all I want to know.
I just want to find out if you sang any songs like "He's the Honky Tonk Man." Was that you? I mean,
Me? No, I don't sing.
I saw Kermit the Frog though on there. You do a little bit of ventriloquist work.
No, so I'll tell this story
before I get
here.
into Ric Flair, if you don't mind having a little bit more time with us. I'm curious about that because I do voices.
I'll tell you a story. So
Okay.
my viewpoint. We used to have celebrities, obviously, all the time at WWE shows, and for the most part, I would always try to be professional and not fan out over anybody, or ask for pictures or anything like that. Adam Sandler, Shaq, Mr. T, over the course of just years, like, LL Cool J, you know, um, every baseball player, or, we had LeBron James's rookie year, out in the crowd. And I would try very, very hard, to maintain some level of professionalism and not completely span out over. And it was always my job to make sure that we had seats in the crowd for them and know where they were. And 9 times out of 10, myself and security are escorting them to their seats. And so you get to, get a little FaceTime with them and talk to them a little bit. The one time I said to our photographers, I don't care what happens. I need a picture with a celebrity is when the Muppets came. We had the Muppets on twice. So we had the Muppets as guest hosts in Atlanta uh, for a Monday Night Raw. We used to do the guest host for Monday Night Raw. And and then we had the Muppets in Atlanta. We had Bob Barker the one time in Chicago, which meant something to me because I am a Price is Right champion. That's a story for another time. Yeah, I am a Price is Right champion.
All right, you guys heard it first. He's coming back for part 2 because we're going to talk about that.
And you guys had Drew
really...
Carey at one of the Royal Rumbles too. So yeah,
right. So I had mentioned to Bob at that point that I had been a Price is Right champion, and he was, obviously the host at that time. So I had a little moment with Bob at that point, and but the only time I ever said to any of our photographers or anybody that I want a picture is with the Muppets. I said, we had them in Atlanta, and then we had them again for a tribute to the troops in Norfolk. So we're in Atlanta the first time, and we didn't know that we were having them a second time at this point yet. So I grab our photographers and I say, I don't care what happens. If there's an opportunity, that they take pictures with the Muppets, call me. I will stop what I'm doing. I'm coming to get a picture, right? So watching these guys work, the Muppets is insane. It is one of the coolest things ever. So we're shooting shots with them backstage and around, and first of all, they FedEx all the Muppets to to the show, and I'm like, I'm like completely surprised, and I'm like, there isn't some 22-year-old whose job it is to put Kermit in a case and hand carry Kermit through the airport. There must be a warehouse of Muppets with 40,000 Kermits, stacked on a shelf, in order for them to FedEx the Muppets. But they were all FedExed, which I was really, really shocked to hear. But
that is interesting.
Watching the Muppeteers work is amazing. They put the Muppet on, and it becomes like an extension of them. And you don't talk to the Muppeteer, you talk to the Muppet. So if we're giving them direction, and you're literally talking to Kermit, and he's answering you, and this is completely normal. You're talking to a puppet on some guy's hand, and there is no weirdness about it at all. You're having a full-on conversation with Miss Piggy on somebody's hand. You're talking, okay, Miss Piggy, and you refer to it as Miss Piggy. We need you to say this, Miss Piggy. We need you to look this way, at the camera here, and it's as normal as you and I talking together here. Right. So, we get to the end of the day, and nobody's called me. I'm like, oh, really? There was never an opportunity to to take a picture, and get to the end of the day, show's over, and I start finding out that there was an opportunity, and they were taking pictures, and nobody called me, and I was bullshit, hot, angry, very, very, every now and then you're on the road all the time, and sometimes emotions boil over, and you get, and it's like I said, families get into arguments,
you're like, who do I gotta fire now?
Yeah, I'm like, whose ass am I gonna kick for this? And I was so hot, just so angry. And I'm like, I do everything for all you guys. Your families come, I get them tickets, this, that, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I make sure they get in the building, fine. And I ask for one goddamn thing, and you can't even take care of this, right? I was legit hot, right? So comes time when we find out that we're getting the Muppets back at Tribute to the Troops in Norfolk, a few months later, and I said, motherfuckers, I'm getting a picture with fucking Kermit this time.
I see it on your LinkedIn. And if you guys want to see that, I'm going to pop this up right now. If you guys want to see that picture he's talking about, you can head right to his LinkedIn here, and it's right there on the screen. It's there.
That
It's
will
cool.
that
I
will
love it.
forever be I got my picture with Kermit, and like you could see, it's crazy because like you could see in the picture, you could see the life in their eyes. Like,
Mm.
it's not just like a puppet. There's a soul there, you know.
Right.
Uh and like that will forever be, I don't care, that was how many years, I don't even know, 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. And obviously I'm much older looking at this point, and I don't care. That will forever be my
That's awesome,
LinkedIn
man.
You actually look
profile
younger.
picture.
I'm looking at it right now. You look younger. So
Yeah, I looked younger
no,
there.
no, right now, right
Now,
now,
no,
right
not
now,
now,
right
not
now,
now.
right now.
How
But
about
oh man, it's just a great story. I know we're over the hour mark, and I appreciate it, but we have one last story that we
One
want to
last
tell
question,
before we
if you
let
don't
you
mind.
go on part one of probably 2 or 3 of Steve Rubin coming on our show, because this was a freaking blast, man. I really
Oh
loved
yeah,
having you on. The
yeah,
stories are
and
amazing. Hopefully Morgan's doing okay, and I just want to. So go ahead, Roy. Go ahead, Roy. We have the best
all
question
right.
to close out the show, baby. Here it is.
Take us home, Steve. So you were in a grocery store, right? And your phone rings, and this was post WWE, and there was somebody on the phone. Who was on the phone? Who called you in the grocery store,
And why?
and why? Yeah.
So post, with WWE, word starts to spread around that I'm parting ways with WWE, and uh, talent would find out, crew would find out, try to keep it, a little bit low key, and you start getting texts and calls and whatnot, and I'm in the grocery store on a Saturday afternoon. I'm in the produce aisle, and uh, I get a call, and it says no caller ID on it. And I know that's one person, you know. And whenever it says no caller ID, it's Ric Flair. And Rick and I are good friends, and he's a great human being, and he'll give you the shirt off of his back. And uh, same thing. You're part of the Road family, so I knew Charlotte before she was Charlotte,
Yeah.
and had dinners with Rick and went to his ESPN documentary premiere here in Atlanta, and you know, all kinds of great things. And he calls me up, and he's like, you know, uh, I can't believe that WWE and you are parting ways and this and that, and how could they let you go and this and that, and uh, it's the worst move in the history of entertainment and sports, and everybody loves Steve Rubin and blah blah blah, and just uh, goes off for like 2 or 3 minutes. And I'm like, Rick, I'm in the grocery store. Uh, let me call you back when I'm not, picking out bananas, So, uh, I call him back, and we talking, and he's like, I'm going to put something up on my Instagram about this. Right. And I'm okay, whatever, do whatever you want, you know, and, he put something up on his Instagram about how, he can't believe that parting ways with WWE, and, for 25 years, took care of everybody, and came to work with a smile on my face every day, and was the greatest guy to deal with, and took care of the talent, and took care of the fans, and took care of the crew, and um you know whoever lands me next is going to be, get a treasure, get a true professional, right? Which is great. I mean, obviously that's what you hope for, in 25 years, and you leave a company, and you leave on good terms, and you leave with a great reputation, and you leave with, and you're welcomed back, uh, when it's time to come back, so it starts to circulate amongst the wrestling media. I won't call them dirt sheets. We'll call them wrestling media.
There you go.
That
Yeah.
uh, the WWE, the Ric Flair, posted on his Instagram, and you know, uh, blasts WWE for Steve Rubin, letting Steve Rubin leave the company, and uh, so my wife and I are sitting on our porch that night having a cocktail. It's May, and it starts to circulate amongst the wrestling media sites. And so I'm literally spending the whole Saturday night having a cocktail and watching, refreshing Google and seeing more and more and more and more and more and more wrestling media sites pick up that, Ric Flair has, voiced his opinion on Steve Rubin parting ways with WWE.
That's just unbelievable. I mean, and you didn't know it was going to go viral. I think I lost you there, where you got to click the camera button. Yeah, it's just it's unbelievable how you don't even know something would go that viral, right? I mean, we always
Right.
wonder if you do something dumb, right, on the street. You always have that world star. Like, oh, great, now I did something. I'm going to be go viral for something stupid. But
Sorry,
this actually,
I had to go get some.
oh,
There he is. There he is, man.
Hey, show it again, Roy, one more time.
In my view, the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
I had to go get it. Sorry, I ran away quick because I had to pay
I
tribute.
thought your camera just went away.
No, I had to go run one more time. Let's give it up
One more
for
time.
Legend.
There you
Yes.
go. Woo! Give it a little woo. There you go.
Give it up for the Legend. I'm a big collector of sports memorabilia.
I'll tell you another quick story. So it's during the pandemic, my son, who's 10 years old at the time, can't have a birthday party. So that's when we were doing all those drive-by like car parade,
Oh my God!
Yeah.
birthday parties for the kids.
I forgot about those.
So we kind of put out like a mass text to all of our friends saying, "Hey, listen, for Shane's birthday, we want to do another one of those drive-bys." And right in the car, right in the procession, Ric Flair showed up for my kid's birthday.
That is awesome, man.
He's a great guy.
He's a great guy. My friend Brian back in Tampa, he actually got to hang out with him a couple times because they go to the same bar in Tampa, which I won't name.
Only one.
Well, one of many I know that Rick likes to go to, but no, he was such a nice guy to my friend Brian, and they had a couple cocktails, and it was just nice. And he says, "You want to take a picture with me?" Brian didn't even ask to take a picture because I'm the same guy. I'm not going to go, "Hey, let me get a picture. Let me get your autograph." I mean, okay, now if I met John. Okay, and I don't want John to say, "Can you please excuse me? I'm having dinner with my friends, please. Thank you." I get it; he gets bothered all the time, but I think he would be the only one I would ask to sign that because he is the last real champion. I love it, but that's and that's the thing about Ric Flair. I've heard nothing but great stories about Ric Flair of what a good guy he is, of how he tries to accommodate all the fans, and he's just a good dude. It's a good dude, and he had a long. I watched his documentary too. What a life, and God bless him. I really hope. That he's doing okay as well with his health, and and God bless him. He's definitely on the Mount Rushmore, and that's my question. You got a Mount Rushmore, right? Everyone does a wrestling Mount Rushmore. I know Ric Flair's on one. Who's your other three?
Ooh,
that's a loaded.
That's a loaded question.
You can't. You don't want to offend anybody or leave anybody out. That's the thing. It's like, can you make 10? I mean, I don't. It's hard.
10. Yeah. Who's your first four? We'll say that, and then we'll bring the next to the next show. We'll do your other four. How's that?
Oh man, I would go Ric Flair.
Okay.
I would go Shawn Michaels.
Yes.
I would go Steve Austin.
Yes.
And
it's the hard one. I kind of know where you're going with this.
I'm wavering between Piper and Andre.
Okay.
And I think I have to go Andre.
Okay, I like that. That's a
revolutionary. All of those guys revolutionized the sport.
And with that said, Steve, I just want to say, let me pop up everything one more time. Let's promote the event here. Let them know once again, usca.live, what this event is, is the date, and what to expect. One last time.
So it is the first ever concerts at the Field of Dreams movie site in Iowa. So those
Damn.
of you that are my age and probably Roy's age,
Yeah, I'm right behind you.
remember
49, man. 49.
I'll be
July
43
28th.
next Wednesday.
and remember the Field of Dreams movie. This is where the movie was filmed. The if you build it, they will come, and we are going to build it, and they are going to come.
Yes. Love it.
And
We might have to go.
We're going.
yeah, we'll take
Road
care of
trip.
you. You'll be our guests. And
Thank you.
yeah, in the cornfields right out there, we're putting up a concert stage, and we're putting up, concessions, and we're putting up it's going to be a full day concert both days.
It's genius.
2 o'clock, music starts, and headlined by Tim McGraw on Saturday night, August 30th, and
August 30th.
headlined by Brantley Gilbert and Nickelback on the 31st. Full pyrotechnics, full show concert, uh, for the first time ever at the Field of Dreams. So
Wow.
it's
One last
gonna
time.
be a
Congratulations,
happening.
man. Congrats.
That is amazing.
That's great.
I'm writing this down right now. August 30th. Steve's coming to pick us up on the way.
Obviously, the MLB game, and then now you're doing the concert. I mean, that again, that's
Well,
revenue.
there's no MLB game so there was an MLB game last year. There's no MLB game this year, and then the MLB game will pick back up again next year.
That's awesome, man.
Sweet.
You're doing great things.
But yeah, and yeah, that's our big. I miss one thing. I miss being in crowds for that live show. There's nothing like being in the crowd during a live sold out show for anything, especially for WWE. Like, when we would have like a surprise entrance or anything like that, or like a shocking, betrayal, or uh, to be able to be in the crowd for those moments, is awesome. And you get to see, families together, and you'd see, parents with their kids, and just the joy that I always say that, as oh no, we'll leave you. We could close with this probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of money involved, and yeah, it's high pressure and there's high stress. But at the end of the day, our job is to provide entertainment for people, and as Vince would say, put smiles on people's faces. That's our job. We get paid to put smiles on people's faces,
Right.
and at the end of the day, yeah, it gets stressful, and you're tired, and you're on the road all the time, and there's clash of personalities, and you're on tight turnarounds, and there's a lot of money involved. But we're not curing cancer. We don't have our finger on the button. We're not police officers or firefighters or teachers. Uh, where our job is super, super important. you know uh Nobody's dying on my table today. But so yeah, we take great pride and satisfaction in that. Our job is to bring joy to people, and you get to sit out in the crowd, and you get to watch that dad with his son, or that mom with their kid, and passing along their love of WWE or whatever event it is, baseball or football or anything like that. And you get to be part of that memory is a blessing, and it's such a great way to earn a living, and to, like, that's your job. Your job is to create these moments for people. And it's so awesome to be able to think of it that way.
It's inspiring. It really is. And a lot of people need to understand that, what we do behind the scenes, like Steve's been saying throughout this whole podcast, you're sacrificing a lot. You're on the road a lot. You have a lot to do. The sanity level, even, I'm assuming, right, Steve? I mean, sleep schedule is probably off. Your eating schedule is probably off. A lot of people need to understand, even the talent. They have to work out, eat correctly. They're flying from one show, possibly have to go to 2 shows in one night, a live event, whatnot. I mean, it's just amazing what we do, and this is why we do this podcast. We love going backstage and talking about stories like this. We're not the dirt guys out there trying to get exclusives. We're just out here to try to, give you the show and let people listen to what you've been through and the sacrifices that you've been through. And it's just amazing that what you've done for 26 years for the WWE, Steve. And I want to personally thank you for being on our show, and we want to have you on as a regular, man. We really enjoyed this podcast, and it sounds like we have a lot more to talk about. So there's definitely going to be a part 2 with Steve Rubin, hopefully. So we want to thank you, Roy. Any last final words before we cut out of here?
Again, it's the people like you, Steve, right? We watch the show, but behind the scenes, all the hard work, and that makes the magic happen, the memories. I could remember all the shows that I've watched with my mom, just sitting down, and that was her and I. Me and my dad were like baseball, football, and all that sports stuff. He wasn't really into wrestling a lot, but me and my mom, to this day, we still are, and that's how I bonded with her. So thank you for providing those memories, and thank you for coming on and just giving us a glimpse behind the scenes and sharing all those special stories. So thank you.
It's my pleasure, guys, and we'll definitely need to do it again.
Absolutely. You guys can check him out on LinkedIn. Here's his LinkedIn right here. Make sure you check him out. Check out everything he has going on. He has an amazing LinkedIn. So, Steve, want to thank you once again. And for Roy, for myself, Rob Eggers, this has been the opening of Season 2, Episode 1 with Steve Rubin. Thank you, guys. We'll see you